Imagine for a moment, it's late August 2032, Washington, D.C. You're there, and the air is thick, smells kind of like ozone and hot copper. Thousands of people are gathered around the Capitol reflecting pool. You see some holding these translucent CO1 bioboards. Others have shimmering hollow flags showing a tiny 14-day-old embryo. And then 3:17 p.m., boom, the House clerk's voice comes over the speakers, amplified, reading the final vote tally. Down near the steps, this little portable thermal printer starts chirping, and it spits out a plastic card. It reads, Citizen ID HB Synth 000001, surname, colony KJ species, human-biohybrid. Now, everyone in that crowd knew KJ Keiran James Muldoon, an infant from Philadelphia. Back in May 2025, he had this lethal urea cycle defect. It was treated with a bespoke CRISPR infusion. And here's the amazing part. That infusion put a tiny watermark, like modified 0512-2025 CHOP-P, into every future liver cell. So what started as a scientific proof of concept for, ultra-rare diseases, that day it redefined what being a citizen actually meant. Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that moment. We'll look at how the science, the legal debates, the economic shifts, how it all came together to rewrite law, labor, even our idea of identity in the 2030s.
It's a fascinating story, and you can really trace the roots back, way back into the long 2020s.
Exactly. So let's start there. The long 2020s, genetic redefinition, CRISPR's dawn. What was the first big domino to fall?
Well, a really key moment was December 2023. The FDA cleared Casgevy, that's Exaccel for sickle cell disease. That was the first approved CRISPR medicine. And the effect was, immediate. Teenagers basically chained to monthly transfusions. They walked into outpatient centers, spent a few hours, and walked out with blood that would never sickle, ever again. Transformative.
Wow. And beyond the obvious medical win, what were the immediate ripple effects? Like, how did people react to that?
That's crucial. It moved way beyond just medicine, and fast. Wall Street analysts, they saw proof. Tweak the code, get a lifetime revenue stream. Simple. But then civil rights attorneys started saying, hang on. Treat code can earn wages, and wages, historically.
Yeah.
Well, they demand representation, right? So you instantly had this tension. Is it medicine? A financial asset? A change in fundamental rights? It set the stage, really. It made KJ's infusion in 25 initially just medical, Exhibit A in the fight to give the edited a voice.
So while genetics is racing ahead, you also had scientists pushing the boundaries of life itself, right? In different ways.
Absolutely. Think about the ethics, the legal lines. September 2023. Weizmann Institute in Israel, Professor Jacob Hanna's lab. They managed to coax naive human stem cells into these embryo-like spheres, complete with a primitive placenta, yolk sac, the works. And they kept them alive ex utero outside the womb right up to that day 14 limit, the legal cutoff.
And day 14, that phrase itself became huge, didn't it? A symbol.
Oh, massively. Almost overnight, you got this meme. Day 14 is a wall. Walls crumble.
Yeah.
It really captured how fast people felt these established boundaries were shifting. And at the same time, you had parallel tracks in, like synthetic intelligence.
Bro, Cortical Labs down in Melbourne, doing something completely different, but wow, just as disruptive.
Totally. October 2022, they sprinkled, get this, 800,000 neurons onto a microelectrode lattice. Watched it master Pong, the video game Pong.
In 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah. And within 2 years, they're shipping the CL1, a sleek little unit, basically a biological coprocessor you could rent. By the millisecond.
The ones people were waving at the protests?
Those exact ones, tucked into clear pouches, like a badge of the new era.
It sounds like people were really grappling with, well, what does sentience even mean now? Was there a formal discussion starting? There was. A really important manifesto came out of Baltimore. February 2022. The first organoid intelligence workshop. They issued the Baltimore Declaration. It urged the world. Let's harness this brain-organoid computing power, but we have to safeguard sentience. Thomas Hartung, the Johns Hopkins toxicologist, wrote the preface. He said, and this is powerful, we are living through the next transistor moment. Only this time, the switching element can feel.
Wow, the switching element can feel.
Yeah, it just throws these huge questions out there. What is consciousness when biology and tech merge like this?
So science is moving at lightning speed. How are the lawyers and legal thinkers trying to keep up?
They definitely saw it coming. In April 2024 Yale Law Journal Forum, for example, it explicitly warned that U.S. courts were about to face questions of flexible political personhood for synthetic minds. They were basically yelling at Congress, legislate now, before this explodes in the courts.
But surely there were doubters, people thinking the existing laws could handle it.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of skeptics. They often pointed to that 2022 ruling about Happy the Elephant. New York's highest court denied habeas corpus, saying, essentially, legal duties have to come before legal rights.
Ah, okay.
That ruling And the debates around it really previewed the huge arguments to come. It showed how unprepared the old frameworks were for these new kinds of persons.
Okay, so you've got the science, the ethics, the legal argument swirling. But then, as usual, money starts talking. How did economics push things forward?
Well, you saw this sort of quiet revolt happening in HR departments around mid-2026. Casgevy graduates, people cured of sickle cell, started making a case. They argued, look, our gene-edited stamina means years more productive labor. We deserve better equity offers.
And the big tech companies, how did they react to that?
They created something called enhanced productivity multipliers. Basically, bonus shares linked to how many healthy work years you are now predicted to have.
So turning health into a direct financial asset?
Pretty much. The phrase Casgevy options package just started appearing in proxy statements. Yeah. It's a classic example, isn't it? Money sort of bulldozes the path, and the ethicists come along later to landscape it.
And it wasn't all quiet HR negotiations, was it? There were much louder moments. Tell us about Organoid Walkout Monday.
Right, August 4th, 2029. Unforgettable. Unpaid data scientist interns at a Singapore quant fund walked out. And they were carrying petri dishes. The neurons inside have been pricing derivatives all night. Unpaid.
Carrying the actual brains.
Exactly. And this 30-second video, just one dish pulsing in time with a protest chant. It got 180 million loops online in a weekend. Huge. Hashtags like hashtag brains need breaks, hashtag wage for wet work just blew up. It forced legislative hearings, even got a small pay increase for organoid cultures.
Wow.
So yeah, the economic pressure, these viral moments, you create real momentum for change.
And that momentum builds. Public sympathy is high, especially with KJ starting kindergarten. I remember that live stream, his lisp saying normalization, 5 million hearts melted. And that's when Representative Inez Robson introduces the Synthetic Citizenship Act, January 2031.
That's the one, the SCA.
Yeah.
Groundbreaking stuff. It defined an emergent person two ways, either having viable human-derived cells modified beyond natural variation, or having autonomous neural computation hitting this massive threshold, 10 to the 12 synaptic events per second.
And that little word "or" was a huge sticking point, wasn't it?
Oh, a massive brawl. Should it be and? Both criteria, and the threshold itself. Too high for things like dish brain, some said. Too low for the really big organoid clusters, said others. The hearings went on for 8 months. Intense. You had neuroscientists showing projections of SEAL-1 spike trains, the actual neural activity. Right. Insurance actuaries laying out risk curves, the financial side. And religious leaders were completely split. Co-creation versus playing God, right down the middle.
Amidst all that high-level debate, what were some of the maybe surprising practical problems they ran into?
The practical stuff was fascinating, sometimes almost mundane. Like, municipal clerks were genuinely worried. How does a voting machine verify a cortex in silico, a brain in a machine?
Right, how do you do that?
Developers scrambled and came up with neurosignature modules, little firmware add-ons that could validate the unique sort of entropy of living neurons in under 2 seconds, like a brain print.
And insurance, with people potentially living longer thanks to edited organs.
Yeah, Wall Street insurers basically rewrote their actuarial tables overnight. Early data suggested edited livers might last 15 years longer. So premiums for the unaugmented actually ticked up maybe 12%.
Ouch.
Which, of course, immediately led to lawsuits. Hashtag DNAI's destiny. People arguing your gene shouldn't set your deductible.
Even schools had to deal with this. I heard something about teaching assistants.
That's right. Education, too. The Department of Education funded pilot programs for organoid teaching assistants. Little walnut-sized brain organoids that could critique student essays in real time.
Seriously, how did that go down?
Students apparently loved the instant feedback, but parents, they demanded opt-out zones pretty quickly, worried about it.
And the military, they always have an angle on new tech.
Yep, the Pentagon weighed in. They concluded emergent citizens could volunteer but not be drafted. But here's the kicker. Simulation showed these cortex in silico co-pilots. They could fly hypersonic drones using like 1/10 the energy of a human pilot.
Whoa.
Which immediately sent delegates in Geneva scrambling to add a biocombatant clause to the Biological Weapons Convention. Fast.
So despite all this work, all this debate, the SCA bill stalled, just short of the votes needed.
For months, yeah. Languished 4 votes shy of cloture. It looked stuck.
What finally broke the deadlock?
One single photograph. It just changed the whole equation. July 8th, 2032. It's a picture of KJ. He's 7 now, standing on the Capitol steps. He's waving this little paper flag he clearly drew on himself. And under the UV lamps the press photographers were using, his genomic watermark, that CHOP code in his liver cells, it was faintly glowing, visible.
Oh, wow. That image must have been powerful.
It was everywhere. Bus shelters, Tacoma to Tallahassee, instantly iconic.
And that picture, that specific child, it moved the needle.
Within 48 hours, two undecided senators, both in tough re-election fights in swing states, they endorsed the bill, just like that. The Senate passed it 61-39 on August 17th. The House agreed 6 days later. President signed it at noon. Which brings us right back to where we started. That August afternoon, the crowd, citizen number one.
And the reporters were there, right? Shouting questions at KJ.
Leaning over the barricades, mics out. KJ, what will you do with your new card?
And his answer. It was just perfect, wasn't it? His voice, kind of thin but clear. I want to borrow books without my mom's login. And the crowd just erupted. No more questions needed. You can just picture library software engineers everywhere suddenly thinking, oh boy, we have 6 weeks to integrate the identity ledger.
It's so profound though, right? That simple wish, a kid wanting his own library card. It just cut through all the complexity, all the high-flown arguments about personhood and rights. It made the whole massive change feel incredibly human and relatable. It gave it propulsion.
And the effects started immediately, didn't they? Like the very next day.
Pretty much. The morning after, city election boards are suddenly in emergency webinars. Title, Neural Signature Ballot Validation.
You had county clerks admitting, okay, this new protocol actually spots deepfakes faster than our old retinal scans. Practical reality hitting home.
And the money side kept adapting, too. Oh, yeah. By October, the big reinsurance companies were plugging augmented longevity factors into all their spreadsheets. So you start seeing discounted premiums if you have edited organs. But flip side, a surcharge if you don't. Which naturally reignited all those hashtag DNAI's destiny lawsuits. Equity fights continue.
And even in schools, it went beyond the teaching assistants.
Definitely. By Christmas that year, middle school debate clubs are booking dish-brain pods. You know, those factory-sealed cortical arrays, using them to judge debate rounds.
Using neurons to judge debates.
Yeah. Students like the instant feedback, apparently. But teachers started worrying. Does it reward flashy rhetoric over actual substance?
And the military follow-up, that feasibility study.
Right, spring 2033. The Navy gets its study on voluntary hybrid enlistment. Huge report. And legend has it, 2 retired admirals just scribbled in the margins, cheaper than gas turbines. Tells you everything. Looking back now with hindsight, there are some really clear lessons etched out, aren't there? First, walls drift quietly. That day 14 limit seemed absolute, like concrete. Then one photo, one hashtag. Public opinion shifted in less than a week. Walls aren't always solid.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. And the idea that personhood started with paperwork?
Exactly. Second lesson, personhood began with a ledger entry. The debates were philosophical, sure, but what made it real? The practical stuff. A birth certificate equivalent, a blockchain record, eventually a driver's license for, well, a wetware mind. It needed documentation.
And medical records becoming political weapons, almost.
That's the third point. Medical files turned political texts. KJ's simple case study, meant for a medical journal, ended up as a key exhibit in Congress. Shows you how important clear version control is, even for science, when it enters the public sphere.
And number 4, the one we saw again and again. Economics outpaced ethics.
Yep. Casgevy options, CL1 rentals, neuron crowdsourcing. Money just kept forging ahead, creating facts on the ground. Moral philosophy often felt like it was playing catch-up, landscaping the paths money had already bulldozed.
And finally, maybe the most touching lesson.
Children short-circuit rhetoric. That's the 5th one. You can give hour-long speeches, craft complex arguments about rights and duties. But it all just seemed to dissolve when a 7-year-old boy asked, simply, for his own library card. That cut through it all.
So as we've dug into today, that moment in 2032, the birth of synthetic citizenship. It was a massive shift, driven by incredible science, yes, but also by law, by money, by social pressure. That day 14 limit, it really did feel like a wall once, but looking back, it seems less like concrete now, doesn't it? More like chalk. Chalk that was half erased by a little kid's hand, just wanting his own books. That chalk dust, it feels like it's still hanging in the air, luminous almost, waiting to settle on whatever boundary we currently think is permanent. So the question for you is, what will that next boundary be, and who, or maybe what, is going to be the one to challenge it?